Rightio, Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. What will change? Now I feel this might be a bit of a lengthy video because we're going to go over changes, and it's going to be split up into two parts. We're going to be going over the gameplay changes, and then we're going to go over something that I'm excited about, probably going to go off the rails a little bit, get to do a bit of theory crafting, a bit of predictions, kind of get to go out there just a little bit, and that's story changes. So there will be timestamps in the comment section below, so if there's something you're looking for in particular, it's all there for you guys. I've got you covered, so don't you worry about that. But please bear in mind that when we go into that story section, if there's something you disagree with, let me know. But kind of create a discussion, that's what it's about. It's me putting my theories out there, my predictions, and I want to hear yours as well. So bear that in mind while listening to me talk about the changes I think are going to happen in Crisis Core Reunion, and let's discuss about it. So with that all being said, what is up guys, Genesis7 here, welcome back to the channel, and we are going to be discussing what will change in Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. Going forward, I'm just going to say Crisis Core Reunion, I don't want to say the full title, but we're going to go over everything, and there's two particular tweets that I'm going to bring up right now. This one about some gameplay changes that we're going to see, and this one that is from the kind of Japanese Twitter. Either it's marketing or it is kind of saying that this is a prequel to Final Fantasy VII Remake. So just bear those tweets in mind, but let's focus on the first one because we're going to be going into gameplay changes. Now we have approved camera and character movements. So this essentially is just going to make it smoother to control. I assume that now that we have a second analog stick as opposed to just the one on the PSP, camera control is going to be smooth, it's going to be great. And I assume that the attack and dodge is going to be akin to what it is in Remake. So for example on the PlayStation, square to attack, circle to dodge. I think it's just going to follow suit just to make it easy and all tie in together. Optimized UI. I think that the UI is just going to be akin to Remake, especially when it comes to like materia fusion, when we go into materia in Remake, it's going to have that planetarian kind of feel to it, the live stream. I think it's going to look very visually pleasing. I also think the materia itself will have the correct colours, because I think the colours were a bit all over the place when it came to Crisis Core. Memory might not be serving me right. I'm just having a look through the strategy guide at the moment, and there's a few colours there that wasn't in Remake or the original Final Fantasy VII, so maybe they'll adjust that a little bit just to give it a bit more continuity when it comes to the Remake series. A new menu based battle system. So this is just going to take away mashing L and R to get to the right attacks, not being able to attack and kind of go over to a spell you want to use efficiently. I think it's just going to be very easy. We've seen in a few snippets, a few seconds in the trailer we got, that there is a quick menu that's probably assigned to the shoulder buttons, and then you can assign either triangle, square and circle and X to a certain piece of materia, whether that happens on holding L2 as well for some extra materia, who knows, but I think that's going to obviously make the battle system a lot more easier to use, a lot more manageable. New background music arrangements by Takahashi Ishimoto. Now this is pretty exciting because of course this is the original composer of Crisis Core, so he gets to go back into his tracks, rework them a little, maybe he might add some new arrangements, maybe some additional pieces, or make new tracks completely, maybe some tracks that we heard in Remake and some kind of like prequel arrangements of those. Really would like to hear the Collapsed Expressway once again, but it would be nice to hear this soundtrack. Whether we'll have the option to kind of flip between soundtracks, who knows. It's always nice to have in these kind of remasters, is it a remaster? To have the option to go back between music and OSTs. So we'll see. And then the last one, which is going to tie into story changes as well, but we'll kind of keep coming back to this, and that is full voice acting added into the scenes that were previously text only. I'll talk about this briefly now, and that gives us the chance for certain dialogue changes, because maybe there's some kind of unspoken text that was in Crisis Core that they can kind of change a little bit. Maybe they can allude to certain things that happen in Remake. They might be able to record a few lines here and there, just a few changes to dialogue here and there. Or we could have the chance for completely new dialogue, new lines that might add to certain scenes, give them a bit more clarity, give them a bit more meaning, give them a bit more of a link to maybe scenes that we've seen in Remake and may see in Rebirth. And like I said, we'll go back to the voice acting when I'm going over the story beats, because that's what we're going over to right now, and that is the story beats. This is where I get to go a little bit wild. You guys might not agree, maybe you'll agree, or maybe you'll just have like, oh, you know what, I think Jen might be right here. So again, comments in the comment section below, let's discuss, but let's get into it. First, I want to kind of get Reunion out of the way. Obviously, this is the subtitle. A lot of us thought this may be a subtitle in the Remake series. It obviously isn't. Maybe they'll use it for the third game still. We don't know. But going over, searching through the game script, there's no mention of Reunion. So there's nothing really to link about it. The closest thing we get is the mention of reuniting. And this happens underneath Benora very late in the game when you're confronting Genesis. And obviously, throughout this, we're seeing kind of quotes from Loveless, and Genesis says something along the lines of, "You have succeeded, Angeal's spirit, and carry a part of Sephiroth within you. Thus, the three friends are reunited once again, and Loveless is reenacted." That's the only mention we get kind of any kind of reunion. Whether that ties into the story, maybe it gets explored a little bit more. Who knows? I'm not going to go into too much detail with that right now, but if you want to see a video, maybe I might do a bit of deep diving, or you can just leave your comments in the comment section below. But we're just going to kind of leave the reunion there for now. I want to talk about the Buster Sword. Now, the Buster Sword has a notable change. It's the one thing that everyone noticed. And I don't think there's any kind of story beats behind this. I just think this is changed for continuity only. I don't think we should be looking into it too much. I just think they want to keep the Buster Sword looking the same throughout this whole kind of FF7R journey. Now, the next two things I kind of want to touch upon are elements that were introduced in Remake, and whether or not we're going to see these in this prequel of Crisis Core Reunion. First of all is everyone's favourite Shinra mascot, and that's Stamp. Will we see Stamp in Crisis Core Reunion? And not just will we see Stamp, what version of Stamp will we see? Will we see the Bugle, or will we see the Terrier? Me, in a nutshell, we're going to see both. I'll go into a bit more detail with the Terrier a little bit later. You can see it's going to be linked to the ending. But I do think that we're going to see the Bugle kind of plastered throughout Midgar in posters. The reason I say this is because if we look at this image here and dive in a little bit deeper, we can see a reused asset, and I think we know that Crisis Core is going to reuse a lot of Remake assets, but this one in particular, we can see the poster. It's the Air kind of piano musical poster that was introduced in Remake. We can see it here, so that kind of opens the door to me that they're going to reuse some poster assets, and I think Stamp's going to be one of them. I think he's pretty pivotal to kind of what they're kind of doing when it comes to the end game of this R series. So I think introducing him into Crisis Core just as a poster is fine. Again, we'll talk about Terrier just a little bit later. I want to touch upon the Whispers. The Whispers. Now, I don't think we'll see these in the game at all. I just think that it will be related to the ending, so I'll go into that a little bit more detail when I get to talking about the ending. As excited as I might be, guys, I don't want to jump ahead, so we'll talk about the Whispers in just a second. Crisis Core is known for its plethora of missions going throughout the world of Gaia, and I do think that maybe we'll get some additional missions, maybe with some little kind of Easter eggs there with things that we may have seen in Remake or something along those lines. Maybe a combat simulator might be introduced a bit more in detail, just to kind of fight things that may exist in the future. Who knows? This is just me fanboying and I'm saying extra things I want. Maybe they're not going to expand on the missions or add anything extra, but I'm just kind of touting it anyway. I would like to see it, and I'm sure you guys would too. Now, I've got written here hub changes, and when I say hubs, I'm on about specifically Sector 8, Lovers Avenue, and then we've got Sector 5, the slums and the church, and these locations changing. And I think they are going to change. I think they're going to, again, for continuity, get these areas to look like they do in Remake. Obviously, Loveless Avenue is a pivotal point where Cloud meets Aerith in the Remake, and it looks very different in the original Crisis Core. So I do think that they'll rework these areas. I don't think they'll add anything extra, as in more places to explore. I just think it may be expanded a little bit more detail. And again, these areas, the church included, as well as the Sector 5 slums, looking more like they do in Remake, just for continuity. And it would be nice to have these areas a bit more detailed and being able to explore these a little bit more. Maybe additional missions dotted around, you never know. Time back into me fanboying again, but it's just nice to have these hub areas a bit more expansive, because we do spend a lot of time between missions, between story beats, in these areas to progress things along. And this, again, I'm going to tie back to the voice acting. I think that they're going to bring something from Remake here, and that is the kind of NPC dialogue as you're walking through. I think the hub areas is a perfect place to kind of bring that back, especially when they're saying that they're bringing more voice acted scenes. This kind of falls under the category of new dialogue, but maybe as you're venturing through these hub areas between the story beats, their NPC dialogue reflects the story. I think it'd just be a nice touch, and it kind of gives a bit more immersion to these areas as you're chilling out, doing missions, and kind of just exploring between those story beats. It would be nice. Also, when it comes to locations being changed, I think, again, they're the only locations that are going to be changed to fit the continuity. I think, like, when you're visiting places in the missions, these are obviously big spaces. I think they're going to just be up-resed and a bit more detail. I don't think they're going to change to reflect anything. The only other area that may possibly have a bit of a visual change, maybe a bit more expanded upon, is Nibelheim. Because obviously the Nibelheim incident happens in Crisis Core. We're going to see Nibelheim in Rebirth, so maybe we get to see what Nibelheim's going to look like in Rebirth through Crisis Core Reunion. Next up, I want to talk about scenes, in particular additional scenes that we might see, or expanded scenes. So additional scenes can fall under anything, maybe some little scenes here and there that kind of connect Crisis Core Reunion to the Remake trilogy. It'd be nice to see like little nods here and there that kind of let you know, yep, we're doing it. Apart from that, I don't expect anything too additional. I think it's more expanded. So what I'd like to see is more of an expanded scene when Vice and Nero get a Genesis. The reason is it's going to tie into my ending theory, so I kind of want to bring it up now. But it'd be nice to have that expanded upon a little bit, maybe see them Genesis being taken to deep ground and then like kind of declining the invitation, going into his slumber, maybe. That would be nice. And I would like to see like what goes off during the 4 years of the Nibelheim incident. Like, obviously it's all happened the 4 years after, while they're being tested on. I would like to see a few other scenes, maybe to give us a bit more of an insight on what was actually going on during these experiments, and how the kind of town of Nibelheim was reset during this time, so the events looked like they never happened. I would like to see that expanded on. I guess this also kind of falls under the scenes, and that's the use of feathers. Obviously throughout Remake, straight from the beginning, at first reactor we visited, the black feather was there, and feathers play a pivotal part in the scenes throughout Crisis Core. So I expect not more feathers, but more of a focus on feathers, because I do feel like they're going to play a part when it comes to looking at Rebirth and the third game in the trilogy. So I expect maybe just a little bit more of a focus on the feathers. So, it's the moment I've been waiting for. I finally got here on my notes, my messy notes that are just all over the place, and that is the ending. The ending. A lot of people are discussing about the ending, and the most common thing I've seen across the board is that you're going to get the Crisis Core ending that we got back on the PSP. The credits are going to roll, and then they're going to play the scenes from Remake. And I guess that would be my kind of go-to for a normal ending as well, but I don't really like the way that is. I wouldn't like to watch this emotional ending of Zack dying, the credits rolling, and then just playing that scene again, but he lives. as someone that's played the remake, played the original, played the Crisis Core on the PSP, it wouldn't be satisfying to me, and it would be kind of predictable. Now, I want to go on to what I think's going to happen, and that is it's going to be my prediction. But before that, I'd like to kind of throw a wild card out there of what you never know. It sounds awesome, but probably not going to happen. So, hear me out here. Any of you guys played Kingdom Hearts 3, in particular the Remind DLC, and you kind of go against a certain individual called Yuzora. Now, during that battle, you can win or lose. Doesn't matter what happens, each of those scenarios have an ending, a dedicated ending to that. Wouldn't it be cool if the final battle against all the soldiers would be similar? This is my wild card, by the way, so you can disagree. You can disagree. I know this won't happen, but I just want to throw it out there. So, you lose, you get the ending that we're all familiar with when it comes to Crisis Core. We're all going to be emotional. Oh man, Zack's dead. Credits roll. That's it. Or the battle gets more intense. You're going on. Keep on going on. It feels like this battle's lasting forever. The DMW is going crazy. There's flashes, there's little glitches all over the place. Then the whispers start to appear, flying around the battlefield as you're taking down all these soldiers. And then eventually, as time passes, you win. And then you get the scenes that we've seen in Remake. That would be pretty cool when it comes to a gameplay aspect, kind of tying in the DMW and everything together. I don't think that's going to happen. That's just me throwing my wild card out there and just building a little bit of suspense to what I actually think is going to happen. So this is what I think is going to happen at the ending of Crisis Core. Reunion. We're going to have the normal ending. Zack dies, we're going to get emotional. The credits are going to roll as normal. And obviously at the end of those credits, we get the kind of rehash of the Final Fantasy VII intro. Of like, I'm Cloud, first class. Don't think we're going to see that. Let's go back to the credits. We're going to get the credits. It's going to go over like, usually the way the credits work, they go over the kind of producer, no, they go over the voice actors first, don't they? So I think once you've done that, and throughout this, there's going to be a few like odd flashes, little glitches during the credits. It's nothing at first, but we're going through all these voice actors. And then the credits kind of stop, and we're expecting them to carry on to kind of everyone that worked on the game. And then them credits rewind, and they rewind, they get faster and faster. We're back at the ending of Crisis Core. It rewinds, it goes all the way back. All this exchange between Cloud and Zack. The Aerith sensing Zack's death in the church. We're rewinding through all of that, and it goes all the way back to when that soldier is pointing the gun, and Zack's going like, boy oh boy. And then this is going to then morph into the scenes that we've seen in Remake. And I think we're going to get an additional scene, because in Remake we kind of get, as the singularity is going off, the whispers and all of that, we get the scene of Zack confronting the soldiers, and then we're back to him defeating. I think we're going to have that middle bit of like this really awesome kind of CGI cutscene of Zack fighting these soldiers as the whispers are just going rampant, Midgar's just like going crazy in the distance. We're going to get that, and then we're going to get the remake scenes that we've seen. I think that's how it's going to do, and then the credits are going to continue while Zack and Cloud are walking towards Midgar, because this ties into the ending of Remake and obviously the trailer of Rebirth as well. That's what I think is going to happen. You can either agree, disagree, or add or take away. Please let me know in the comment section below. But I don't think that's it. I don't think that's what we're all going to get. I think we're going to get one more thing. We're going to get a secret ending. And it's not going to have any prerequisites. We're not going to have to get 100%. This is all going to be part of the game. Anything that's to do with like in-game completion, you're going to get in-game. When it comes to endings, we're going to get it all when we complete the game. But the credits are going to continue. They're going to keep going. They're going to keep going. And where we would usually get like the rehashed Final Fantasy VII intro of Cloud First Class on the train, I think we're going to have like a scene of Midgar during the singularity, the whispers going crazy, and that kind of like light explosion. And then it's going to pan down underneath Midgar. And this links into what I was mentioning earlier about the additional scenes with Genesis. It's going to pan under Midgar. We're in the caves of Midgar. And I want you to look back at the Dirge of Cerberus secret ending of where Genesis wakes up from his slumber. But I want you to imagine that cutscene without Vice there at all. It's just Genesis going under, and he awakens. He spreads his wing and he flies off. And then that leads us in to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. That's what I think is going to happen. I think we're going to get that scene. Genesis is going to be awakened early. So now when we're going into Rebirth, we have Zack and Cloud heading towards Midgar. What's going to happen there? We have the unknown journey continuing with Barrett, Aerith, Tifa, Cloud, Red 13 heading towards Calm. And then we also have the rebirth of Genesis. He's awakened early. What can he add to this story? What can he add to the unknown journey? And what relevance does he have in the Final Fantasy R trilogy? I think that's what it's going to do. I think that's where we're going to end. Because that way, it gives us a bit extra. We're going to be very satisfied. We've got the original ending. We've got the new ending with an additional kind of like really cool CGI cutscene of Zack just kicking some serious ass. And then we also get to see Genesis awaken earlier than expected. That's where I'm going. That's where I'm sticking with until we get some further details. So that's where I want to leave it with you guys. Do you agree? Or do you disagree? Let me know in the comment section below. This has been intense. I don't know how long it's been, but I'm hoping that you've listened throughout. I do thank you for your time. And if you want to hear more kind of like Final Fantasy VII related stuff, I'm a massive fan. I listen to all the theory crafters. I listen to all the thoughts. I listen to all of the theories, the predictions. I love it. And this is kind of my dipping of the toe. So if you want me to kind of dive in, let me know. Got plenty of things. But yeah, it's been fun and I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and until next time, I'll catch you on the flip side.